You are listening to Blessed and Bossed Up, presented by Anchored Media, an entrepreneurship podcast for Christians all about how to make God the CEO of your business. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, but well-equipped to live and build your destiny His way. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast. I am so excited for us to hop into our next book club pick. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. I'll put the link in the show notes for you so you can grab your copy. I read this book originally a couple of years ago, and I was going back and forth in my head about what our next book club pick was going to be, and we landed on this one. And I have to tell you, it's so timely to revisit this book. Like, I'm not just reading this for the podcast, but I'm reading this for myself. And initially, I was going to push this back a couple of weeks because I have like midterms and things going on. And I was like, child, I need to read these law books and not any other books. But I started reading it for myself just because I felt like I needed that reminder, because I felt myself getting into a hurried state and kind of going into some bad habits of busyness. And I wanted to address it by just go ahead and starting to read the book now to remind myself of the dangers of going down that path. So I was like, let me go ahead and start reading it now, and we will get started with it now here on the podcast. For those of you who have never heard of this book before, this book is a national bestseller with over 1 million copies sold, is described as a compelling, emotional, and spiritual case against hurry in the favor of a slower, simpler way of life. Reviewers say that it is a prophetic, practical, and profoundly life-giving. They say it provides a way forward that creates hope, hunger, and a vision of a beautiful life. I consider this a required reading. The description says, "Who am I becoming?" That was the question nagging pastor and author John Mark Comer. Outwardly, he appeared successful, but inwardly, things weren't pretty. So he turned to a trusted mentor for guidance and heard these words: ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. Hurry is the great enemy of a spiritual life. It wasn't the response that he expected, but it was and continues to be the answer that he needs. Too often we treat the symptoms of toxicity in our modern world instead of trying to pinpoint the cause. A growing number of voices are pointing at hurry or busyness as a root of much evil. Within the pages of this book, you'll find a fascinating roadmap to staying emotionally healthy and spiritually alive in the chaos of a modern world. For me personally, one of the reasons I love this book so much is because I find myself often seeking to adjust pace. Y'all hear me talk about this all the time. I call her my inner hustler, who wants to go, who has this drive, who is an achiever. She gets things done, and she's useful in that she has contributed to my success. She's contributed to me having such a beautiful life with the things that we've built and accomplished and grown and all the things. So that drive that I have, she's useful and she's contributed greatly. However, she can't be in the driver's seat, because if she's in the driver's seat, we get into a hurried state. And so I found myself over the last few years talking about pace and trying to slow my pace down. And I've talked about this on the show as well, where I'm in the Bible and I'm reading Paul talk about contentment and how content he is, whether he has a little or he has a lot, it doesn't matter. He's content. And I'm like, God, I want that same level of contentment. How do I operate? How do I maintain truth to who I am? I'm not trying to stop being ambitious. Don't even think that's possible. I never will not be a go-getter. I will never not be ambitious. I will never not have a great work ethic. These things are not inherently bad, and they make me who I am in a lot of sense, but that's not all of who I am. So how do I maintain the stillness, the pace of grace, keeping in step with the Spirit, the calmness and the peace that comes along with it, while not totally disregarding this driven person that I am? And it's a tough tug of war sometimes. And when you are an achiever and you're the one that people don't have to worry about and you get things done, it's easy for you to go unaccounted for. It's easy for you to get caught up in the busyness and to get to this unhealthy space that we're going to talk about in a second. It's easy for that to happen because nobody sees you fully to be able to help reel you back in. They see your accomplishments. They see what you can do for them. They see that you got it all together, air quotes. But nobody stops or they come to you so that you can then impart wisdom on them. But a lot of times people don't stop to fully see you. And it can be a lonely and isolating place. And it could leave us in a space where we're not recognizing how detrimental hurry can be to who God wants us to become. And so this book, I feel, is a book of wisdom for people like us to hold us accountable in a way to where, to be quite frankly, we may not have a lot of people in our lives doing right now. So while we go through the chapters of this book for however long this takes, let me be your big sister, the person that is going to pour into you and remind you to slow down while I'm also reminding myself of the same thing. Now, before we get into the chapters, I want to set the tone on what the data says about hurry and how it's impacting women specifically. Studies are showing that women live in a state of chronic overload. According to the American Psychological Association, women consistently report high daily stress levels. Nearly half say that they feel overwhelmed by responsibilities. Women are more likely to report physical symptoms of stress, like fatigue, headaches, sleep disturbance. Chronic stress is not episodic for many women, it's baseline. Burnout is widespread amongst women. Research shows that over 40% of women report feeling burned out. Emotional exhaustion is especially high among women with caregiving responsibilities. Many high achieving women report feeling always on. Burnout isn't just workplace fatigue, it spills into identity, relationships, and spiritual life. The mental load is often invisible but heavy. Sociological research shows that women disproportionately carry planning responsibilities, emotional regulation in the home, scheduling and memory management, anticipatory thinking. So, what do we need for next week? What's for dinner? What do I got to order from the store this week? This cognitive labor increases anxiety, decision fatigue, reduced mental clarity, and difficulty resting even when physically still. Busyness then becomes internal and not just external. Busyness impacts women's health. Chronic hurry and stress elevate cortisol levels, and over time, this is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease, insulin resistance, sleep disruption, hormonal imbalance, and immune suppression. Women are also more likely to sacrifice sleep to meet competing demands, which compounds emotional instability and cognitive overload. Women experience time poverty. Researchers describe a phenomenon called time scarcity. Many women report having little to no uninterrupted discretionary time. Rest is often fragmented, and leisure feels unproductive or guilt inducing. Time poverty is strongly correlated with lower life satisfaction, higher anxiety, and increased depressive symptoms. I know many of you can identify with a lot of the things that I just read. So when we read this book, I want us to understand that this is a clarion call. Like, this is the Lord getting our attention. This is something that we need to take seriously. And this is something that can't just be a note in our prayer journal, something that sounded good while you were driving on the way to work. But this is something I want you to take. I want you to hear our conversations here on the show, but then take this into your prayer time and say, God, help me eliminate hurry from my life. God, help me calm my central nervous system. Teach me how to rewire my central nervous system so I'm not operating from a space of survival mode, so that I could be comfortable at the pace that you've called me to live. Because sometimes, y'all know, some folks, you can't sit down. Because if you sit down too long with yourself, your mind start going, always gotta do something. It just highlights all of the things that you may be running from. And so I believe that us taking seriously what's going to be discussed in this book will be healing. It will be freeing. And I want you to take it to your prayer time so that the Lord can make you whole, so that He can do what only He can do. Now, the author starts off the book after the foreword with a prologue. It's titled The Autobiography of an Epidemic. Now, it's written in kind of like a journal format. It's as if he put a bunch of diary entries or notes in his phone into one section. This author also has a unique writing style, which I like. And I guess for branding purposes, I like it for that too, because usually if I see a book, I can tell that he wrote it just by looking at it. And I think that's a great branding point. But nevertheless, he writes journal style. He writes with some humor and serious topics. So I also enjoy his writing style. I like when I have books by authors where they're really saying things of substance, is deep, but it's also enjoyable and unique to them. I think it just adds to the overall literary experience. But nevertheless, in this autobiography prologue section, he shares some thoughts or notes that really have or serve as the foundation that this book was written on. The author's a mega church pastor, if you don't know, from Portland, Oregon area. He talked about how he founded this church and it grew by like 1,000 members a year for the first couple of years. And so he talked about just all of the growing pains that come along with it, leading staff and a team, and sometimes not always meeting the expectations of your team. He talked about just being in this CEO role and all of these meetings and all of the executive operational sides that go to um, running a church of this magnitude. And he also talked about the physical side of preaching 6 times within a Sunday to be able to accommodate all of the people that were coming in a way that the church was growing. And so he has this point here that I have highlighted where after describing all of that, he talked about how I got into this thing, meaning starting a church, to teach the way of Jesus. Is this the way of Jesus? He says, speaking of Jesus, I have this terrifying thought lurking in the back of my mind, this nagging question of conscience that won't go away. Who am I becoming? I just hit 30, so I have a little time under my belt, enough to chart a trajectory to plot the character arc of my life a few decades down the road. I stop, breathe, envision myself at 40, 50, 60. It's not pretty. I see a man who is successful, but by all the wrong metrics: church size, book sales, speaking invites, social stats, etc. In the new American dream, your own Wikipedia page. In spite of all of my talk about Jesus, I see a man who is emotionally unhealthy and spiritually shallow. I'm still in my marriage, but it's a duty, not delight. My kids want nothing to do with the church. She was the mistress of choice for dad, an illicit lover I ran to hide from the pain of my womb. I basically who I am today, but older and worse, stressed out, on edge, quick to snap at the people I love most, unhappy, preaching a way of life that sounds better than it actually is. Oh, and always in a hurry. Why am I in such a rush to become somebody I don't even like? It hits me like a freight train. In America, you can be a success as a pastor and a failure as an apprentice of Jesus. You can gain a church and lose your soul. I don't want this to be my life. I want y'all to sit with this question for yourselves that he asked. He says, who am I becoming? And he goes to describe, if he was not to change anything, what his life would look like 10, 20, 30 years from now. I want you to do the same thing. If you identify with any of the statistics that I went over, if you've identified with anything that's been discussed thus far, I want you to sit and ask yourself the question and sit in prayer so the Lord can reveal to you, who am I becoming? If you don't deal with this today, Who will you be in 10, 20, 30, 40 years? This episode is brought to you by IXL. It's February, it's mid-semester, and it's that stretch of the school year where your routines are already set, expectations are higher, and schoolwork starts to feel more demanding. IXL helps kids stay confident and consistent as the semester picks up speed. IXL is an award-winning online learning platform that helps kids truly understand what they're learning, whether they're building math confidence, strengthening reading and writing skills, or reviewing science concepts. It covers math, language arts, science, and social studies from pre-K all the way up until 12th grade, with personalized interactive content that adapts to each child's level and pace. It's an easy way to support learning as the school year moves into the most important stretch. Y'all know I love IXL. I have a extremely gifted son, and one of the things that we've been doing on IXL more recently is they've been able to connect his high test scores from his school standardized test into the IXL platform so that his content is more engaging, it's challenging, it's meeting him right at his gifted level and also challenging him to do more. And best of all, it's so easy to get him to do his IXL assignments because it's fun. It's like a game to him. And so it's a win-win for us as a household. One subscription to IXL covers everything, pre-K through 12th grade for all the kids in your home. 1 hour of tutoring can cost more than an entire month of IXL. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Blessed and Bossed Up listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com. Use offer code TODAY. Visit IXL.com to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. This episode is brought to you by NerdWallet. It is extremely difficult to get lending as a small business owner. Big banks, a lot of the times, will say no. When you search the internet, there are these sketchy offers with super high interest rate and fine print that you can barely read. So whether you need help covering payroll, managing cash flow, or investing in the growth of your business, you deserve better. And that's why I recommend the small business marketplace Fundera, which is powered by NerdWallet. It's a free, easy-to-use platform that lets you compare real financing offers from trusted lenders all in one place. What I like is that you don't need perfect credit to get started. No spam, no bait and switch, just personalized options that fit your business needs. If I was looking for a small business loan right now, this is what I'd use. And here's the best part. For a limited time, when you visit nerdwallet.com/blessed and fill out a no obligation form, you'll get VIP treatment and talk with a real person who knows the ins and outs of small business lending. Don't risk your business on unreliable lenders. Go to nerdwallet.com/blessed to find the funding that you deserve. Fundera Inc. NMLS ID number 1240038. This episode is brought to you by Trust and Will. One of my favorite scriptures is, "A wise man leaves an inheritance for their children's children." As I've been growing my business and building my family, I often think about legacy, securing that legacy so that my children and my children's children will be taken care of. Now, when we pass on our faith, our family, and our legacy, it can be protected with Trust and Will's online estate planning. Trust and Will makes it easy to safeguard your children's future with a stronger, smarter estate plan. Grief is hard enough, but Trust and Will gives you and your loved ones that much needed peace of mind. They also keep families connected through generational planning. And what I love most about Trust and Will is that such a huge task is made so simple. You can create a will plan in as little as 30 minutes to protect guardianship of children, pets, asset distribution, and healthcare directives. Trust and Will products are state-specific, attorney-designed, and customized to your needs. Protect your legacy and your loved ones today, tomorrow, and beyond with Trust and Will, the most trusted name in online estate planning. Go to trustandwill.com/blessed and get 20% off. That's trustandwill.com/blessed to get your 20% off. Trustandwill.com/blessed. This is something that I sit with often. One thing that I know, and one of the things that I believe is just a superpower or a secret to success for anybody, and I've talked about this often, is self-awareness. And something about me that I do enjoy and admire about myself is that I am very self-aware and I recognize things that need to be course correct before they go too far. And I also recognize signs and symptoms that I may be on a path that I need to course correct. So for me, I know that when I start getting headaches often, when I start not sleeping well, and I'm a sleeper, y'all. I goes to bed. You hear me? Like, everybody know if you text me after 8 p.m., you will get a text from me at maybe 5 a.m. because she goes to bed and she sleeps good, especially these days. My friend bought me a little heating pad for my birthday, and my husband got me like a new diffuser. Child, please. I put that heating pad on, cut that diffuser on, and be knocked out. Okay. But I know when I start having those migraines, if my sleep starts getting interrupted, these are symptoms that something has got to give. And we need to reel it back in and reevaluate. I can't imagine if I didn't have self awareness, or if I had self awareness and didn't do anything about it, where I would be in 10, 20, 30 years. I would imagine that I will be in a place where I've accomplished all of these things and accumulated all of these assets. I have organized for my children to have full lives, but they never see me. They have all the opportunities in the world and they're put in the best environments and all of these wonderful things. They're cultured, they've traveled, they've done different instruments and learned new languages and done all of these beautiful, amazing things on paper. But I don't know them and they don't know me. The thought of that makes my stomach hurt. I can't imagine 18 years from now when all of my kids are out the house and it's just me and my husband left that we don't even know or like each other. I can't imagine. I can't imagine my time coming and I'm before the Lord and I don't hear that well done. I can't imagine I'm before the Lord and everything that I did in this life doesn't stand the test by fire. That will crush me. That will crush me. And so I want you to take a second to let your mind go there. If we don't address this issue of hurry now, what does your life look like 10, 20, 30 years from now? And are you in a rush to be somebody that you don't even like? I love books that ask the hard questions because that is the foundation of you really being able to make meaningful change. So I want you to sit with those questions and let yourself feel those feelings. Because by you feeling those feelings now, when you can do something about it, it'll motivate you to make the changes that need to be made. So the first chapter, this book is broken up into different parts. The first chapter of part 1 is called Hurry, the Great Enemy of Spiritual Life. The author talks about how he sat down with one of his mentors, and then his mentor was telling him stories about his mentor. And he says how his mentor asked, "What do I need to do to become the man that I want to be?" And the mentor asked this to his mentor. And the answer was, "You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life." There's nothing else. Hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. He says, Satan doesn't show up as a demon with a pitchfork and gravelly smoker voice, or as Will Ferrell with an electric guitar and fire on Saturday Night Live. He's far more intelligent than we give him credit for. Today, you are far more likely to run into the enemy in the form of an alert on your phone while you're reading your Bible, or a multi-day Netflix binge, or a full-on dopamine addiction to Instagram, or a Saturday morning at the office, or another soccer game on a Sunday, or football or basketball, whatever your sport of choice is, or commitment after commitment after commitment in a life of speed. He says Corrie ten Boom once said that if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy. There's truth in that. Both sin and busyness have the exact same effect. They cut off your connection to God, to other people, and even your own soul. The famous psychologist Carl Jung had this little saying, hurry is not of the devil, hurry is the devil. A couple of years ago, when I'll maybe say I was in the height of my hurry. I'm busy now still, but I don't think that I'm as hurried as I once was. We're still working on it. Still some hurry in there, but it was worse before. And I was talking to my therapist at the time, and she, if you're in therapy, they always ask, what are your goals? What are your treatment goals? What does success look like for you? And for me, being present was huge, to where I just felt like I was always on the go. And even if I wasn't physically doing a lot of things, my mind was in 50 million places. Like I'm always thinking and planning and strategizing and figuring something out. And even if I'm not trying to figure out something to solve right away, I'm thinking about something I might want to do later. It's a blessing and a curse. And so we started putting little things in place in my day to help eliminate this internal sense of hurry. One of those things was creating more transition times in my day, because I was famous for back to back to back to back meetings, go somewhere, come back, do this, do that. Like it was just very hurried and very fast. And so then she had me add in different breaks in my day. So before I came home from the office, I would take about 30 minutes or so and just do whatever, dilly dally. So I might sometimes when I think this was when I still had my office in Virginia, and there was like this restaurant nearby. I love oysters. That's like my favorite food. And so it was this oyster spot right by my office, and it was also a sushi spot. I love sushi as well. So I would go to the oyster spot sometimes after school or after work, and I would just eat some oysters, get some appetizers, and then I would head home. Or go and get some sushi, and then I would head home. Or I'll go to the water that I like to go to in Old Town Alexandria, and I'll go walk along the water. I might just go out there and sit if it's a nice day. But those were my moments to exercise some stillness, and then I would transition into home life, which is usually kids, homework for them, or getting ready for the next day, things around the house. Something we also added to my schedule was a lunch break, which is wild. Because what was that? Like, I never had a lunch break. I would just eat and work. But she was like, you need to have a lunch break. And when you eat lunch, don't scroll on your phone while you're eating, but eat the food, chew the food, taste the food, and then get back to work. And so that's something that I will put in my schedule. And that's something I still do now. My husband laughs at me because my son does this too. So we be looking like twins, where we'll get us a plate, sit down, cut a show on, and just be in our world. And I do that now, where I'll sit, get my plate, cut on one of my little shows, eat my food, and I'm just in my little world for that moment. And then, go back to doing whatever needs to be done. But I had to be very intentional about carving out that stillness. And then also something that she had me do was anytime that I feel like I'm getting hurried and I'm able to recognize it, hit pause right then and there, and then ground myself. And so what that looks like is, and this happens often, especially in the mornings, because I'm always running late for class to get to school. And so I feel myself rushing. I'm grabbing this. I got to get my coffee. I got to get my lunch. I got to get my breast pumps. I got to get all these different things and then get out the house because I got to commute into the city and might be traffic, all of that. So when I find myself going at a certain speed and I recognize it, I pause and I take 4 deep breaths in, 6 deep breaths out. I touch something and I feel it. I smell. As I'm inhaling, I identify something that I'm smelling. I pause and I just listen and identify something that I'm hearing. And so it was just a grounding exercise to just get back into my body and to get get my feet on the ground and be present in the right now. And then I will continue doing what I have to do to get out the house, but it's not in that same rushed, hurried state. So these are some things that I have learned and some tools I've learned from therapy that have proven to be very helpful. Now, of course, everything is not foolproof. And I would also tell you, though, this is why you have to stay connected to the Holy Spirit, because he'll pull you up too. Where there have been plenty of times where the Holy Spirit has been like, pause, or got my attention somehow that forced the speed to slow down some. So I pray that you guys could take some of these things, because these aren't unique to just me. These are things that you can do as well. I pray that you write those things down and you try to implement those throughout our time together as we're talking about hurry, because I believe that it will help. So the author goes on to say, granted, there's a healthy kind of busyness where your life is full with things that matter, not wasted on empty leisure or trivial pursuits. By that definition, Jesus himself was busy. The problem isn't when you have a lot to do, is when you have too much to do, and the only way to keep the quota up is to hurry. He says Michael Zigarelli from the Charleston Southern University School of Business conducted the Obstacles to Growth survey of over 20,000 Christians across the globe and identified busyness as a major distraction from spiritual life. Listen carefully to his hypothesis. It may be the case that 1, Christians are assimilating to a culture of busyness, hurry, and overload, which leads to 2, God becoming more marginalized in Christians' lives, which leads to 3, deteriorating relationship with God, which leads to 4, Christians becoming even more vulnerable to adopting secular assumptions about how to live, which leads to 5, more conformity in a culture of busyness, hurry, and overload. And then the cycle begins again and again. He says, and pastors, by the way, are the worst. He rated busyness in my profession right up there with lawyers and doctors. I mean, not me, other pastors. You see, he has this little sense of humor in here. He says, this new speed of life isn't Christian. It's antichrist. Think about it. What has the highest value in Christ's kingdom economy? Easy, love. Jesus made that crystal clear. He said the greatest commandment in all of the Torah was to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, followed by love your neighbor as yourself. But love is painfully time-consuming. All parents know this, as do all lovers and most long-term friends. This is true. Love is time-consuming because it requires attention. It requires presence. It requires listening. It requires thoughtful response. It requires action. You can't rush to love somebody well because you'll miss things. Think about whatever relationship that you have in your life that matters to you. Can you love or be loved well in that relationship from a place of hurry? I don't think so. And he gives an example. He says, hurry and love are incompatible. All my worst moments as a father, a husband, and a pastor, even as a human being, are when I'm in a hurry. Late for an appointment, behind on my unrealistic to-do list, trying to cram too much into my day. I ooze anger, tension, a critical nagging, the antithesis of love. If you don't believe me, next time you're trying to get your type B wife and 3 young, easily distracted children out of the house and you're running late, a subject on which I have a wealth of experience, just pay attention to how you regulate to them. Does it feel like love? Or is it far more in the vein of agitation, anger, a biting comment, a rough glare? Hurry and love are oil and water. They simply do not mix. Hence, in the Apostle Paul's definition of love, the first descriptor is patient. And he's talking about in 1 Corinthians, we're talking about love is patient, love is kind. This episode is brought to you by Time for Learning. Now, my kids are in regular school, but we embrace in my house a homeschool type of flow because we believe in education beyond the classroom. And Time for Learning allows for real life learning, customized schedules, and hands-on experiences. They believe in harnessing the flexibility of homeschool to help families explore passions, travel, and hobbies without the constraints of traditional school hours. Schedule a mix of subjects in each day or focus on specific ones by the day. Favored by homeschoolers as a main curriculum or a supplement, and Time for Learning is also used for after school or summer learning to address learning gaps or maintain skills. Their activity planner plus transcript templates make it easy to match homeschool requirements in all 50 states. Best of all, the results are confident, future-forward kids that are ready to thrive in college and career. Curious if Time for Learning is right for your family? Visit timeforlearning.com. That's learning.com to explore their curriculum and find the perfect plan for your student. You can get started with a monthly subscription to see just how much your kids enjoy learning on their own terms. This episode is brought to you by Marley Spoon. Every year, I make these goals to get better with my meal planning, but something always goes awry because my life just needs flexibility. So what finally clicked for me is that I realized that meals don't have to look one specific way. They just have to fit your life. That's what Marley Spoon does really well. What I love is that Marley Spoon actually adapts with you. Some nights you cook, some nights you heat, and some nights you just need dinner done really fast. They've got options for all of it, so that means it fits your schedule, not the other way around. Now, I'm a foodie, so flavor and variety is a must for me. And what I love is that they give you over 100 recipes to choose from each week. We're talking comforting classics like the chicken Milanese and cucumber arugula salad to fresh, balanced dishes like everything bagel salmon and truffle chive potatoes and green beans, all made with quality ingredients, and there's something for whatever you have a taste for. Marley Spoon has tons of options in their marketplace, from meal shortcuts and drinks to fresh groceries that you can add on each week. And for those nights where you need dinner ASAP, Marley Spoon's prepared meals are exactly what they sound like: convenient, delicious, and on the table in minutes. This is a lifesaver for me if I have a lot of studying to do, a long day, and I just don't feel like cooking. You'll find these on every weekly menu, and if you've got a few extra minutes, they have some great 20-minute options too. My personal favorite hack is those tray baked dinners. You literally just throw everything on one tray, boom, you're done. And they even include the actual tray. My favorite meal from Marley Spoon was this falafel pita. I was in the middle of cooking and organizing things for the new year, and I was hungry. I wanted something fresh, wanted something fast. And the falafel pita was perfect. It was done in 20 minutes. And what was even better is it's husband proof. My husband is not a great cook whatsoever, but he was able to make it, and it was delicious thanks to their easy to follow instructions. This year, fast track your way to eating well with Marley Spoon. Head to marleyspoon.com/offer/blessed for up to 25 free meals. That's right, up to 25 free meals with Marley Spoon. That's marleyspoon.com/offer/blessed for up to 25 free meals. This episode is brought to you by one of my favorite brands as a mom of 3, Bobby's. Bobby's USDA organic, European-inspired infant formulas were created by moms who couldn't find a formula that met their standards, so they decided to make one themselves. Like the moms who started Bobby, I found it so difficult by the time I had my second son to find formula that met the clean label standards that I was looking for. I had used other brands in the past with my oldest son, but I was not satisfied at all. I couldn't pronounce some of the things on the label. I wasn't confident that I was giving my son the best nutrition, and it was very frustrating. And that led me down the rabbit hole of finding a better formula. And that's how I actually came across Bobby. I love that they had a full suite of recipes along with their certifications. They were USDA organic, EU organic, Clean Label Project Purity Award, and Clean Label Project Certified Pesticide Free. They had awards such as their Baby List's 2025 Top Choices Organic Formula and being named a 2025 Top Choice by Consumer Reports. As a mom who combo fed, I also loved how inclusive they were, and they supported all feeding journeys, whether breastfeeding, combo feeding, or exclusively using formula. So after all of this research, I knew that Bobby was the formula that I wanted to use with my children. And best of all, my son loved it. We didn't have all of the issues that we had with previous brands. And now that I have a new baby, I know that should I ever need or want to use formula, Bobby will be my go-to any of their products. If you want to feed with confidence too, head to hibobby.com. That's hibobby.com to find the formula trusted by parents and loved by their babies, 700,000 and counting. And I never correlated personally busyness or being in a hurry with being the opposite of love. Don't think that I would have ever put these two together as opposites. Because I think that if I didn't take a second to really hear him out, I would probably reject what he's saying. I would be like, no, I could be busy and still love, but no, you can't be rushed and moving quickly and still love people well. And he gave a great example about trying to get the family out the house on time and how all that rushing and being all over the place can make you agitated and snappy and not exercising the care and sensitivity that you need to have with the people that you love. And many of us mean well, but our intent doesn't negate the impact. So this is another hard question that I want you to write down to pray about today. How has hurry caused you to negatively impact those that you love the most? Is hurry hurting your spouse? Is hurry hurting your immediate family, your children, your friendships? Have you acted outside of character because you've allowed hurry to take such control over your life? Something to think about. He goes on to say, in our culture, slow is a pejorative. When somebody has a low IQ, we dub them slow. When the service at a restaurant is lousy, we call it slow. When a movie is boring again, we call it slow. Case in point, Merriam-Webster says, mentally dull, stupid, naturally inert or sluggish, lacking in readiness, promptness, or willingness. The message is clear. Slow is bad, fast is good. But in the upside-down kingdom, our value system is turned on its head. Hurry is of the devil. Slow is of Jesus, because Jesus is what love looks like in flesh and blood. The same is true for joy and peace, two of the other core realities of the kingdom. Love, joy, and peace are at the heart of Jesus' kingdom vision. All three are more than just emotions. They are overall conditions of the heart. They aren't just pleasant feelings. They are the kinds of people we become through our apprenticeship to Jesus, who embodies all three. And all three are incompatible with hurry. Think of joy. All the spiritual masters from the inside and outside the Jesus tradition agree on this one. If there's a secret to happiness, it's simple: presence to the moment. The more present we are to the now, the more joy we tap into. To restate, love, joy, and peace are at the heart of all Jesus is trying to grow in the soil of your life, and all three are incompatible with hurry. Another question I want you to write to pray and journal about is, how can I be more present? How can I get out of my head and all the places it goes? How do I get out of my phone and all the things that pop up? And how can I just be here? I find myself often I might be multitasking, and the Holy Spirit reminds me, no, single task. I picked up my son the other day, and I always smother my kids with a lot of affection. And my oldest son, I went to go put him in my arms, but like he heavy. He like 60 something pounds now, and he just didn't fit in my arms or my lap like he once did. And then I look at my daughter, who's the 8-month-old, and I'm like, he was just that small. How did we get to the point where he doesn't fit in my lap like he did as a baby? Like that just, it stuck with me to look at his face and see the features maturing. To look at my 2-year-old and see his features maturing and how he looks more like his dad every single day. And I look at my baby girl to see and look and see how she looks just like me and how happy she is. And I pay attention to where her cheeks get a little bit bigger, or where her arms get a little longer, or her legs get a little longer, and the hair growing on her head. I take moments to stop and I stare at them. And they be looking at me like, girl, what, what's like, what? But it reminds me how fast time goes. When I was celebrating my birthday last week, I always get reflective, as I said before. And I'm like, I'm 34 years old. When did I get to this age? It feels like just yesterday I was a teenager. And there's this funny trend on TikTok where they talk about how millennials, what it say? It said like millennials are in denial about our age, where some of us having kids and still think we have teen pregnancies, but we are grown and married, having planned children, but think we have a teenage pregnancy because we were so scared of it growing up. Or a lot of us where, and I get this often, if I'm at my son's school, or if the school calls or sends an email and they're like, hey, Mrs. Iommi K, we're calling about, and they'll say my son's name. And I'm like, y'all really calling me? I'm the parent? Like, I'm the adult that's supposed to be in charge? I just got here. Like, I'm just a child. But no, I'm not. I am grown, very grown. But time, it just goes and it flies. And so I find myself intentionally having to take moments and not multitask, not worry about all the what next and all of the things, and just be more present. And I want you to do the same. Sit and think about, how can you be more present? Is it you're going to have a phone-free evening every night and just enjoy whatever your environment is? Something I like to do when it's warm out, child, I can't wait for it to be spring because I'm sick of the snow in the DC area. But when the sun is out, I sit on like our back patio in the sun, and I just let the sun hit my face. It feels amazing. It's the vitamin D, it's the fresh sunshine, the fresh air outside. Something I do is I like to sit out there and drink my coffee and just drink it slow. Smell the hazelnut and vanilla creamer. Feel the warmth of the mug in my hands. Feel the taste go through my mouth and go down as I swallow. Like, it's just feeling and being present for every moment. It does something for you. I promise it does. And it makes you appreciate all of the ways in which the Lord is involved in our day to day. And when you're present, you see the beauty of his craftsmanship, from nature to you as an individual, the hairs on your head, the unique features of your face and of your body. If you're outside and you see the birds, how they don't worry about anything, as scripture says, about what they're going to eat or anything, the Lord provides for them. When you look at the flowers that grow out of the grass and all of their beauty and their uniqueness, you appreciate the Lord. When you take a second on your commute to work and not listen to something or not call anybody and try to multitask in that moment, but you pay attention to the road, you just start to thank God for even being able to have a car to get to work. You start praying for the people on the road that they will get to their destination safely, that the Lord will cover them and their families. You're going into an office that you may be tired of working right now, but you once prayed to be able to financially be able to contribute to or take care of your family. Like when you take a second and just exist and be and not do and think and achieve and rush, your worship goes to a new level. And because you take the distractions away that the enemy is using as little carrots to lure you away from your focus on the Lord. The author says, for many of us, the great danger is not that we will renounce our faith. It is that we will become so distracted and rushed and preoccupied that we will settle for a mediocre version of it. We will just skim our lives instead of actually living them. Do you see what's at stake here? It's not just our emotional health that's under threat. As if that's not enough. We move so fast through life that we're stressed out, on edge, quick to snap at our spouses or kids. Sure, that's true, but it's even more terrifying. Our spiritual lives hang in the balance. I can't help but wonder if Jesus would say to our entire generation what he said to Martha. You are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. The need of the hour is for a slowdown spiritually. So that's where we'll stop. That's chapter 1 of The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Click the link in the show notes to get your copy. The chapters are pretty short, so maybe next week, it kind of depends on how much I can read. But next episode, we will do maybe 1 to 2 chapters. We'll see. But we'll continue on this reading in the next episode. Grab your copy of this book. The link is in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.